Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, the latest in our series of Cancer Survivor to Financial Survivor. My name is Trevor Smith-Miller. I'm the Communications Manager with CCSN. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. If you're new to the webinar series, Cancer Survivor to Financial Survivor is a new webinar series that we are doing that will help people navigate a cancer diagnosis and the financial limitations thereof. I would like to first off thank our presenter, Andrew, who is a second part in our series today. And I would just like to go out my notes for 2 seconds. I would like to thank once again Andrew for participating in this webinar series. His first webinar that he did for us can be found on our website, survivornet.ca, and all of our financial Survivor series can be found on the website as well. I would like to introduce Andrew now. He is an independent financial advisor and broker affiliated with his own brokerage, and he's been working in this role for a very long time now, and his previous roles were in customer service at major Canadian banks as administrative assistant at the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, which helps educate Canadians with financial literacy and developing initiatives. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Andrew for his new webinar series right now, Budgeting for a New Normal. So take it away, Andrew.
Thanks so much, Trevor. And it's great to be part of this second presentation here. I had a great time presenting the first one. For this presentation here, we're going to be going over budgeting for a new normal. I've put together some information that I feel will be useful and important to go through for someone looking to gather some more information, as well as an interactive session I want to show you guys as well, using a budget that's available to anyone actually through the Financial Consumer Agency website, something that's very intuitive and easy and should help uncomplicate things for you if you're looking to start doing some of your own financial planning. So without further ado, I will go ahead here and, oops, there we go. Have you just been told you have cancer or have you beaten it? You probably have a lot of worries and concerns. It's important to know that you're not alone and help is always available. So the information shared here was prepared to help to help you better understand some concerns and questions individuals frequently have, and hope that you can gain the confidence in your financial planning and better focus your energies on your treatment and recovery. And just a side note as well, the information provided here can vary based on province and jurisdiction. This presentation is not intended to give advice, but instead to help educate and bring awareness to the areas listed on the agenda. So please consult a licensed and approved representative relating to any matters you wish to seek advice on. The agenda today will be going over these talking points. First one is balancing rising costs and limited budget, eating healthily, food banks, other resources in your community, money management, debt and credit management, credit counseling, and consumer protection. Some of these items will kind of be bundled up together in slides because some of them actually go hand in hand, but you'll see as I'm going through it, the different talking points that I'll be crossing over to. So going over the first one, balancing rising costs and money management. I know this is probably a big thing. It's really on everyone's mind, especially right now with inflation and how certain industries have really been hit hard with it. So why have a budget? First thing to think about why you should have a budget is to plan, something to plan to manage your money, what you have to spend and to save. This really is the starting point with any financial planning engagement that you do. A budget can help balance your income with your savings and expenses, and also guides your spending as well to help you reach your financial goals. It's kind of like developing a GPS roadmap. You know where you're going and you know where the finish line is. A budget is especially important if you don't know where your money is going, don't save regularly, have challenges paying off debts, feel overwhelmed by your finances, feel like you're not in control of your finances, want to make the most of your money, and if you're planning for a major purchase or a life event. Making a budget can help you, such as set your spending limits, find ways to pay down your debts, reduce costs and save more, live within your means, reduce stress, have more money for things that are important to you, and feel in control of your money. One of the areas that really you can help at least start off with reducing some kind of stress is just to get a piece of paper and write down everything that you're currently spending today. Keep track of that. And keeping track of that, it's the same thing as maybe if you were to do journaling. You want to keep track of what your daily habits are, your routine. You want to be doing this as a routine so that it's kind of embedded in your everyday life, right? You're keeping track of what you're doing. You know, the second you step outside, you know if you're going to be going out and spending money, having an idea and mentally accounting for what you're going to be spending. And why this is good is because it can help you not forget or lose track of what your spending is. Really thinking about what you're spending on and how your cash flow is going in and out is very important to make sure that you're always maintaining full control of what you're doing. Take these simple steps before you make a budget. So the first part is think about what your financial goals are. That's always the number one thing. You got to know what you're spending your money on and what you're spending for, right? Is it to save for a certain goal or activity you want to be doing, or is it spending just so you can make sure you're living the happiest life ever? It's to identify your short-term and long-term goals. So make savings for those as part of your budget. For example, goals may be, if it's short-term goal, paying off your credit card, reducing your weekly expenses, or starting to build an emergency fund. We will talk a lot about the emergency fund later on, but just to touch on it right now, the emergency fund can be a very important tool to be using, especially if you're going into a time such as retirement and you want to make sure that something were to happen, an uncontrollable event, you have the resources and the funds there to take care of it without having to dip into any extra savings that was not planned. So some long-term goals could also be paying off larger debts, saving to buy a home, a car, or booking a trip, saving for children, education, or retirement. Breaking these down is good because it gives you an idea of what is something you can be saving for today, tomorrow, the next day, but also 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Now, your future self is really going to thank you going back and thinking about how you started today for those goals that were 5+ years ahead. And really getting a good grasp on those long-term goals is going to make a huge important change to your life now, and even help you tackle those short-term goals a lot easier as well. The unexpected. So an emergency fund is really enough money to cover living expenses, typically 3 to 6 months. Everyone can have their own idea of what's comfortable for them, but ideally 3 to 6 months is a good starting point to have as money that's set away, that's accessible in cash, preferably not invested. You don't want to be digging into an emergency fund, even if it's low risk. If markets still go down, it's preferred just to leave it in cash. Take advantage of something like a high interest savings account if you can, but start small and increase slowly on a regular basis with saving to it. It's going to help you, as I mentioned before, reduce the financial stress and avoid getting trapped in a debt cycle. Examples of emergencies could be like car repairs, urgent visits to the veterinarian, job loss, health problems that prevent you from working. Unexpected expenses should not be confused with occasional expenses, such as school supplies, winter tires, or holiday expenses. Occasional expenses should already be planned for in your budget. And a tip to setting up an emergency fund: use the following tips to set one up. Open a savings account. And what I want to show you here is actually going through a little bit of a budget to show you how you can start saving and finding those resources. The first one, what I was showing here, is account comparison tool. So again, this is from the Financial Consumer Agency. If you're a little confused about, what's the right savings account for you, I know it could be easy as going into your bank and just opening up whatever account the teller says is good for you. But maybe you want to do a little bit more research and see what the best product for you is. Well, the Financial Consumer Agency has a very good tool and resource to look at to help you find what the products are that's out there, what the banks can offer or any other institution, and to see what exactly you're looking for. Is it checking? Is it savings? What currency would you keep in your checking or savings account? Is it Canadian dollars, US dollars, or any other foreign currencies? And then additional products or discounts may be available to you based on the following criteria. So maybe some of the savings is going to go towards an RDSP that you have for yourself or for someone else. Or maybe it's saving for a student or a senior, or you are a GIS recipient. So this is one source I wanted to pop up here because I think it's a website that's really, I guess, understated. I think individuals should be looking at these resources more, and having this tool to be able to access is very important, and also gives you peace of mind as well to make sure that what you're getting is truly what's beneficial for you. Savings account continued. So you should always look for a savings account that is separate from the account you use for day-to-day transactions. Preferably has no or low transaction fees, allows you to make withdrawals without penalty, and generates interest on the money that you do save. So as I discussed, certain times, like as of right now, with interest rates being high, you usually see high interest savings accounts pay a little more than they would when interest rates are lower. And that's something to take advantage of for this time. So even look to see what savings account can pay the highest interest for leaving your money in there. Start by saving a realistic amount. So it could take months or years to reach that desired amount for your emergency fund. It's better to start with a small amount that you have so you don't get discouraged, and start by figuring out what you can put aside every single week. So that can be whether it's 50 bucks, 25, or some small change. The important thing is to start right now. So right here is just a figure I wanted to show to kind of give you an idea about the progression of various savings accounts. The savings amounts in this example are for illustration purposes, so they don't include the interest you may earn or consider any tax implications. So think about the amount of savings you're doing. So if you're putting in $20 a week, so total amount of savings per year, that's roughly $1,040, and that's without any interest that you're earning. And something like that, having it automated, automatically come out from maybe a paycheck into your bank account is good too, because then that process is automatically happening and you don't have to think about doing it on your own. One of the other items I wanted to show you was a budget planner. This is another very good resource that's on the Financial Consumer Agency website. And this could really be a good starting point to get going on using a budget. It's very easy to use, it's convenient, and I think it really outlines a lot of important details that you should be looking at in a budget. So hopefully if there's any procrastination about starting a budget, this would eliminate all of that. I think it's a really good resource, which I will go into an interactive session on that, on how to use it. So make it a habit. You want to incorporate savings into your daily habits. Try using these few tips. Drop any loose change into a container every time you get home. Create a savings reminder on your smartphone or computer. Circle your savings dates in advance on your calendar, or put a sticky note on your desk, mirror, or refrigerator to remind yourself to save. Tips to help you stick to your budget. Now that you have a budget, try to stick to it and improve it as you go. To help you with this task, try the following. Compare your budget to what you actually spend at the end of every month. Keep all your bills and your receipts, because there could be some bills there, some expenses you have that you might be able to write off or use towards any tax credits. It's important, if you are working with an accountant or a financial planner, to have an idea about what can be potentially reimbursed by the government, or again, use as a deduction from your taxes. Limit your spending as much as possible to what is in your budget, and update your budget with any changes, for example, pay raise, bill increase, etc. When comparing your budget to your actual spending, ask yourself the following questions. Are there large differences between your actual spending and your budget? What categories have the largest differences? Are differences due to unusual situations, or is this likely to happen every month? And can you save enough money to reach your financial goals or pay off your debts? And automating your savings. Choosing a savings amount, date, and frequency to build your savings is extremely important. As I mentioned before, having some kind of pre-authorized checking is a tool that a lot of individuals use to get into that habit and routine. You can set up those transfers on the days you get paid, and at least this way, the amount saves as soon as the money's transferred into your account. Financial goal calculator. This is another resource as well. I can be pulling up onto the presentation here to show you how to start a financial savings goal and how you can reach out to it, or how you can accomplish that goal. So basically, having an idea about what each of the goals are, whether it's short-term or long-term, to write it down, to have a target amount of what you want to save is important. and let the calculations do the rest. Let it kind of paint the picture and give you an idea how much you would have to save roughly. And if you're investing it as a long-term goal too, to get an idea for if you're earning interest, how much that should be your targeted rate of return that you should be requiring in order to get to that goal at a specific date. At least this way, you know you're planning to save for something and you're making progress towards it. Of course, things don't always go as planned, and maybe you fall short of your savings, but this could really help instill the right behaviors in you to get into that habit of writing down what those big goals are, what the important parts of them are, what the amount of money that's required for it, keeping account with inflation too, and then the required rate of return that you need. Some individuals don't think too much about how much a required rate of return is needed, but at least with this calculator that you can use, it can give you an idea on what is a target rate to hit. Now, the second thing to keep in mind too is if you are investing this money and are trying to target a specific rate of return on what you would need, to keep in mind that, again, markets don't always go as planned. It's very important to do a risk assessment and speak to a financial advisor about any financial products you're investing in, what the potential downfall could be and how this can set you back. And they might be able to guide you towards a different product that has guaranteed interest or a little bit less volatile to make sure that you're not going through the high ups and down swings. The second part too we're talking about is eliminating an expense and to save the amount. So eliminating expenses and adding these amounts to your emergency fund. This won't affect your current budget and your funds will grow faster. To determine the expenses you can eliminate, identify the differences between your needs and wants. So there's a difference between living within your means and then living above your means. What you really want to look at, if you are someone that you feel you do have to start cutting down on some expenses, is to think about where you can maybe start trimming some of your expenses down. Maybe if you are someone who goes out and likes to buy 3 cups of coffee a day, Starbucks or something, $5-6 for coffee, think about a way where you can maybe cut that down to 1. And then if there is a need for having 3 cups of coffee, other sources where you can save money from that to be able to fill that role in your life. But the important thing is to really figure out what's important and what can be delayed a little bit so that you can now start putting more money and energy towards saving for those important goals. To eliminate unnecessary expenses, here are some tips and things to think about. Bring your lunch to work instead of buying it. Make your coffee at home, bring it to work. Use public transit instead of your car. Eliminate one essential food choice from your grocery list. Use discount coupons, cashback offers, and take advantage of special deals. Depending on your current habits, you could be saving money every single day. Eating healthily, food banks, other resources in your community. So this was a third item here on the agenda looking at, and it's important that we talk about this too. As you know, the rising prices with groceries has taken a toll on individuals. So it's important to know though, what are the resources in your community that you can access and that might be viable for you? Everyone has their own specific budget. You got to feel and have an idea for what you're currently spending right now on groceries, and maybe where are some resources you can take advantage of to help eliminate some of those additional expenses. Using a local food bank can also be resourceful to check out. Check your local food bank to get more information on them. But one of the things here to look at as well when you're going grocery shopping is set that budget. Figure out how much you're going to be spending, whether it's a week, every 2 weeks, every month. Stick to that specific list. Shop for sales, compare prices, and stock up. Debt and credit management. So this one here we're going to be talking about is really looking into, again, how this can relate to working with the budget, working with the financial goals. But the first thing you want to be seeing is start by identifying what you owe. Make a list of all your debts. For each one, you want to note it down. The total amount you owe, the minimum monthly payment, and the interest rate. Your list may include mortgages, car loans, credit cards, lines of credit, personal loans, student loans, payday loans, taxes you owe, buy now, pay later plans, unpaid utility bills, loans from friends and family, spousal support, child support you owe, or any other unpaid bills such as property taxes or store financing. Review that budget. A budget is a plan that makes you manage your money. And as we said before, it can really help you figure out how much money you're spending, how much you're earning, balancing it with your income and your expenses and to guide your spending to help you reach those financial goals. Once you've done all that, you really want to decide on a strategy. Once you've created a list of your current debts, start your plan to pay them off. Now, the types of debts and the amount of debt you owe will influence your strategy for paying them off. You would like to choose a time frame as well. Set a payment time frame that is reasonable and affordable. And keep in mind, if interest rates rise, your monthly payments may increase. Looking at what some kind of rates are that you might be locked into or not locked into, but to know what the situations are, especially right now with interest rates, is very important. Making any decisions, whatever you're going to be doing, is important to kind of see how that's going to affect you. So what are fixed and variable interest rates first off? So a fixed interest rate will stay the same for the term of your loan. A variable interest rate may increase or decrease over the term of your loan. Dealing with a rise in interest rates is something definitely to keep in mind. And paying down your debts as much as possible to deal with the rise in interest rates is important. If you have less debt, you may be able to pay it off more quicker. This can also help you avoid the financial stress caused by high interest rates and bigger loan payments. So you can deal with a rise by using these different tips. So first one is reduce expenses so you have more money to pay down your debt. 2, pay down the debt with the highest interest rate first to pay the less interest over the term of your loan. Consolidate high interest debts such as credit cards into a loan with a lower interest rate. Avoid getting the maximum mortgage or line of credit that your lender offers you. Avoid taking on unnecessary debt with things you want but don't need. Avoid borrowing more money as it could limit your ability to save for your goals. Find ways to increase your income to help you pay down debt. And make sure you have an emergency fund to deal with the unexpected expenses, such as covering higher loan payments to avoid penalties. When a rise in interest rates could affect your credit card or line or credit payments, there are times when fixed rates on credit cards or lines of credits could also arise too. So if you don't make your minimum monthly payments by the due date, the financial institution may increase your interest rate. Short-term promotional financing or deferred interest offers may be another reason that your fixed interest rate may increase. Make sure you know how long an offer lasts so you're not surprised by the increase in your minimum monthly payment once it ends. And also, banks and other federally regulated institutions must notify you before an interest rate takes effect. I'm just going to turn my screen like this because I noticed that my notes weren't popping up before, so I just wanted to see if I missed any additional speaking notes. Okay, so I got everything there. So going along here to credit counseling and consumer protection. So if you are having trouble paying back your debt or keeping up with your payments, you may want to talk to a credit counselor. Simply talking to a credit counselor won't affect your credit score at all. A credit counseling agency can provide a range of services, such as one-on-one counseling or debt payment plans, group courses, tips and seminars on topics such as how to make a budget and stick to it, or how to use your credit wisely. Finding a credit counseling agency, both not-for-profit organizations and for-profit companies can offer these credit counseling services. Do your research to find a trustworthy organization and a qualified counselor. Make sure you know what services they offer and how much it's going to cost. But it can truly be a valuable resource to use, especially if you're someone who, again, it's part of your goal is to reduce some debt and to get some help. It's definitely something I encourage people to look into. So research the agency's reputation. That's another item as well. So make sure the agency is in good standing with the provincial or the national associations. These associations require members to maintain specific standards of practice. You can find agencies through these associations, which is have them all listed down here: Credit Counseling Canada, the Canadian Association of Credit Counseling Services, Canadian Association of Independent Credit Counseling Agencies, and for people who live in Ontario, there's the Ontario Association of Credit Counseling Services. In Quebec, budget and credit counseling services are offered by association ACEF, Association Coopérative d'Économie Familiale. Pretty sure I said that right. For more information, you can visit the websites I have listed down in there. So the next item is find out if there has been any serious or unresolved complaints about the agency. This includes late payments to creditors or false advertising. It's always important to check for complaints about the agency with the Better Business Bureau, or in Quebec, they have their own bureau as well that they regulate. Look carefully at the agency's advertising, as I mentioned before, because you want to be cautious. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Some agencies or companies may claim or misrepresent that they can solve your debt problems quickly, or for a fraction of your debt, can quickly and easily fix your credit score, or offer services as being part of a government program. Fortunately, there are some agencies out there or some credit counseling services that may not be what's best for you. That's why it's very important, if you are going to engage in this, to make sure you've done some research and you've done some proper homework on them. Keep in mind, you may still need to pay fees even if your creditor refuses to negotiate to make a deal to settle your debt. It's important and it's possible to change or erase information. It's impossible to change or erase information that's part of your credit history unless information is inaccurate. Improving your credit score does take time, so you will have to show your creditors that your habits have improved and that you're paying back your debt on time, which can relate back to the whole part of being financially responsible, looking to start doing a budget, a cash flow estimator, and really seeing that you are in control of your finances. So agencies or companies, keep this in mind, should never try to coerce you into using their services. So be wary of any credit counseling doing this. If you're not sure if a company is part of a government program, contact the government department or agency that it's responsible for. So ask them to confirm that the company's representation is genuine. And then definitely find out about the agency's services and costs. So the services offered and the fees charged by credit counseling agencies can vary. And it's important to ask the following questions about your services to help find an agency that's right for you. It's the first to ask if the first consultation is free. What services does the agency provide? Will the agency provide you with a written proposal describing how they will help? What type of support will the agency give you to help you improve your money management skills? Will the agency provide you with monthly statements of payments? And ask about the counselor's qualifications. So same thing if you're working with a financial advisor, as mentioned in the previous presentation, about how to choose the right financial advisor, some questions to ask, some qualifications and work experience to look for. Same situation with a credit counselor too, or someone that's going to help you manage your debts. It's to talk about education, specialized training, years of service, accredited financial counselor Canada designations, and everything like insolvency courses that maybe they've done. Debt management plans. So you could always sign up for a debt management plan through a credit counselor. A debt management plan is an informal proposal that your credit counselor makes for your creditors on your behalf. It's going to allow you to consolidate your debts into an affordable monthly payment. In some cases, you may not have what the money is required to continue to pay interest on your debts. You usually have to repay 100% of your debts. So before you enroll in a debt management plan, you'll meet with your credit counselor. The credit counselor will assess your situation, help you make a budget, and give you some tips about dealing with your debt. Double check your credit score, or double check with your credit counselor if this will affect your credit score, and read the disclosures and agreements carefully. So one thing to even consider as well is if you do decide to sign up for a debt management plan, credit counselor will contact your creditors on your behalf, and they will ask if they will reduce or eliminate the interest rate free for your debts, and they will extend and see if they could also extend the period of time you have to repay your debt. So the debt management plan is a voluntary agreement between yourself and your creditors. Creditors who choose not to work with you on a debt management plan may continue to contact you or garnish wages from you, or take the money from your accounts if you have bank accounts with them that you owe money to. It's very important, again, to go through all these items with your credit counselor and just make sure that you have every information and every piece of that disclosure written down so you're very familiar with what you're going into. So the financial consumer protection framework, it enhances protection for bank customers. Bank sales practices are held to a higher standard, products and services that are appropriate for your needs, and your banks must offer and sell you products or services that are appropriate for your needs. They must collect and assess information to understand your financial needs. This will help them to get to know you and provide you with products and services that reflect your circumstances. They also must tell you if they've assessed that a product or service isn't appropriate for you. So banks must ensure that the way they pay their employees doesn't interfere with their obligations to sell products and services that are appropriate for your needs. So for example, a bank employee should not get a bonus for meeting a sales target if they sold you an inappropriate product. That's one of the biggest things in today's marketplace, is being sold certain products or services that is not entirely necessarily for you to be engaging in, maybe at this point in your life as well, where you're unable to service that debt. It's very important to know that you're getting an opinion from someone. It doesn't always hurt to go and get an opinion from a second individual to really see a different viewpoint on what you could be doing. It's also important to know as well that you ask this person who's selling you this product how it's going to benefit you, and make sure you see a full written plan on how it's going to benefit you. And at least that way, there is some kind of backing on it, and you can see a clear path onto success. Debt collection. So it's very important to also know what your rights are with this. So what happens when your debt is sent to a collection agency? You'll usually receive a notice in writing before a collection agency contacts you and collects the debt you owe. The written notice should include the name of the debt collection agency, the name of the person or business that you may owe money to, and the amount that you owe. Steps to take when you do receive a notice that your debt is transferred to a collection agency. I'm just going to zoom in on this right here so we can see it. So if you receive a notice that your creditors will transfer your debt to a collection agency, contact your creditor as soon as possible. You may be able to pay a portion of the amount or the full amount owed to avoid having the debts transferred to collections. Make an alternative arrangement with your creditor to pay back your debts, and get information and tips on what to do when you contact your creditors to help reduce your debt. Charge you more for rent, or employers may not hire you. So once your creditor, so actually what happens to your credit score? So once your creditor transfers your debt to a collection agency, your credit score will go down. A low credit score could mean that lenders may refuse your credit or charge you higher interest rate. Insurance companies may charge you more for insurance. Landlords may refuse to rent to you, or employers may not hire you. What to do when a debt collector calls? So make sure to ask for the following and to write down information: the name of the person who's calling, the company the debt collector works for, the name of the company the debt collector is collecting the money for, and the debt collector's telephone number. Ask for details on the debt, such as the amount that you owe, who you owe it to, and when it's due. When a debt collector can contact you, so a debt collector can only contact you at the following times: Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., Sundays between 1 and 5, and a debt collector can't contact you on holidays. These are actually the written provisions of which they must follow. It does help with individuals being harassed all the time to engage in certain products and services that maybe not be necessary. So we want to try to avoid it from that happening, which is why these set rules are in place. So again, it's also something to keep in mind too, because if someone's calling you on a Sunday at night, it seems a little fishy, might throw you off a little bit. It's a little tip to think about in the back of your mind about who really is this person, how are they calling me. It's very important to know, once you have engaged with a debt collector or even a credit counselor too, that you understand what your rights are and what the process is going to look like for you. What a debt collector cannot do: a debt collector can't do the following: suggest to your friends, employees, relatives, or neighbors that you should pay for your debts, unless one of these individuals has co-signed on your loan. Obviously, use threatening, intimidating, or abusive language. Apply excessive or unreasonable pressure on you to repay the debt. misrepresent the situation or give false or misleading info, call you on your cell phone unless you've provided the number as a way to reach you. A debt collection agency cannot add any collection related costs to the amount you owe other than legal fees or fees for non-sufficient funds on payments that you have submitted. Here are some resourceful links that I'm going to reference. There's a lot of information on here, and it all pertains to some of these websites that, again, have valuable information such as what I just discussed for you to get some more information on. So the first one is the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. The second one was Prosper Canada. The Van City one just was some information, especially if you're living in Vancouver, to look at what options are available to you in your communities, financial literacy support, and so forth. Get Smarter About Money. That's one website I could actually throw up as well, just show you what it looks like and what are some useful resources on there. There is a lot of provincial referencing for individuals in Ontario, but there's also some federal referencing too. They talk about the basics of using a TFSA and RSP, which obviously federal rules with that, but there are some provincial rules there. So just keep in mind that the information you're looking at is more catered towards Ontario. And then Credit Counselling Canada is the last website there, which will give you a lot of information on what we discussed about credit counseling. So what I'm going to do for this next part is I'm going to open up my browser here, and hopefully you guys can see my screen. Can you see my screen, Trevor?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So this was what I was talking about during the presentation about using some resources that are available to you through certain websites. So this is through the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, and this here is one of the links to start using a budget. So how it's easy and some of the key features. So it allows you to save your budget and to continue later through your own unique link. It's going to allow you to personalize your budget to meet your needs. It's going to make budgeting easier with tips, guidelines, alerts. You can see charts and comparisons to your average Canadian. You can get next steps with suggestions and useful links, and earn badges and share your success stories. And you can obviously download this spreadsheet. So let's get started. I'm just going to make up a scenario here. This is also good to kind of try at your own pace, kind of make out different situations and see what works best for you. But your life situation, let's say you are a couple with kids, your age range. Let's say you are between the ages of 55 and 59. Your work status, let's say you're a full-time worker. Your home, let's say you are a homeowner. And your primary budget goal, let's just say you want to cut your expenses. You would select start once you've personalized your own unique situation. And with that, it's going to bring you to this next slide, which you're able to input some information on here. So for income, if you want to click the drop-down box, you can actually pick how frequently you get paid. So let's say you get paid every 2 weeks. And just for an example, let's just say every 2 weeks you're going to get paid $3,000. And let's say your spouse partner is a little under that, say $2,500. Rental property income, let's say there's none of that right now. Education, savings, and loans, let's say you are paying $500 a month for a loan. Child support income, let's say there's none of that. And child care benefits, let's ignore that for now. And then add items. What we can add is, you click on the drop-down box, you can add what your savings are. Let's say you are saving $100 a month to your emergency fund. And another cool thing too is when you hover your mouse over some of these points, it's going to start showing you some tips. So this one here is saying start with a small automatic transfer on a regular basis and increase it progressively. That's good advice to kind of get an idea for really seeing, what your cash flow situation is and how much savings power you have. But definitely as your savings power increases, as your expenses are going down, it makes sense to be doing that, to maybe be increasing your savings by 10, 15, 20%, whatever amount it is on a regular basis. You could be doing it monthly, quarterly, or after every single year. Retirement, let's say you are saving Oh, another tip too they talk about as well is giving you an average compared to what other individuals are doing and what the Canadian average is. So for example, this $100 a month I said going towards the savings, they're saying this is slightly below the average range. 5% or more of what your income is a good target. Now again, if this does not fit your unique situation, that's okay. Always starting off with what's best for you is really the starting point. So let's say you do save $500 a month into your RSPs. And let's say there's no more ESPs right now. Let's say your kids are a little older. Home renovations, let's say you're doing about $100 a month on that. A car purchase, let's say that you are going to be, or sorry, you did purchase a car, you're paying off a loan. Let's say $500 into that. And income tax, let's say you're doing $500 a month into that as well. And expenses, let's look at what your expenses are. So here you have whole bunch of items here, such as debt repayments, what we can add. Let's just say $100 for your credit card. Let's say $200 for your line of credit. And let's say there's nothing else. Housing, mortgage payments. Let's say $2,000 is what you're spending a month. Home equity line of credit. Let's say there's none of that. For property tax, let's say you're paying $200. Home insurance, let's say 100, furniture and appliances, and this is annually. Let's say you spend about 2,000 a year on that. Let's just ignore all this here, or actually no, basic bills. Let's look into that too. Let's say for electricity, you're doing 100, water and sewage, let's say 50, and for heating, let's say 80 bucks. You could even add some more items in here too. It could be anything really, whatever you have. So additional expenses, and let's just say you're doing 50 bucks a month for that guy. Communications, there's a lot to go over here. So, and even for food as well, you can put in what you're putting in for your groceries. Let's say you're doing 50 bucks a week. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly add in just some numbers here, just because I want to fill this out as much as possible to show you what it looks like. And if you take a look here, I'm just going to get rid of this. If you take a look here, you see how this is going up as I'm putting in more expenses? So as I'm putting in more expenses, this is slowly increasing. If you hover your mouse over this, you can really get a good breakdown to see what's incoming. So that's the green items, your net income for both of you, for yourself and your spouse. And then what's outgoing. So you can see here all the different savings, or sorry, all the different expenses that are color coordinated to represent each item. So the dark blue here is savings. It's saying right now it's about 1,241 a month you're going to be saving. Your debt repayments are about 300. Your housing is already at 2,700. Communications 300. Food 216. So that's really what I mean by breaks things down visually as well. That's important. Restaurants and takeout, let's say you do $50 a week for that. And let's just leave, actually, let's add one more expense. Transportation, let's just say car loan lease payments, let's just say 500. I want to get that a little higher. Okay, so let's say we've done all that. So what we do is we go next. Reminder, and then here's where it's going to show more of your results. So in my unique situation, it's going to tell me how much money I have left. So it's saying I make $12,416 per month. That's with both spouses. And it's saying that I spend about $4,280 and save about $1,200. So it's going to give us an idea here of what our current situation is. Thumbs up is good. So it's saying that right now our savings is within range, 5% or more of your income. Debt repayment, it's saying that this amount is within the average range, 15% or less. Housing, it's saying that the amount is within the average range, 35% or less. And communications, that was another category we went over. This is within range as well. Now, again, if everyone's situation is different as well, like you can have your own set target and say, I want to try to save as much as 20% of my income, because that's what I know is going to help me get to my goals. You know, you've done the planning, you've done the budgeting, you've run some projections. If you're not sure exactly what that number is, don't get overwhelmed by it. This is a good starting point here. You know, the FCAC has done a lot of research and they do have an idea for what the amounts are, the average amounts of what people should be doing. So these are good numbers to at least go by at the beginning if you're unsure, and at least it gets you to do something and to start saving something. So the charts here are going to show, again, in different forms, This here is a line graph, or this one here is a graph to show, again, how much income and savings you're doing, the breakdown. This pie chart is going to go show you where your money's going, and it's going to also show you comparisons to your average Canadian, what you're doing for housing, for savings, transportation, etc. And you can just display the totals either weekly, monthly, annually, so whatever you feel is easiest for you to understand. Let's go to next. So suggestions, and right here it's going to actually throw out some suggestions for us. So as you currently have money left in your budget, as it showed, you could put that money towards a savings goal, use a financial goal calculator, which I'll go into that one next, in order to set and reach your savings goals. The process is quick and simple, and the tool provides you with a savings plan. Saying here you should have an emergency fund, so you pay for the unexpected expenses, learn how to set up an emergency fund. And a comfortable retirement requires savings and planning. It's never too early or too late to start. Learn all about the retirement planning. You'll find information even on that resource as well. And then here's going to show you some accomplishments you've done. So congratulations, I've already earned 4 badges. First one is I'm simply just taking charge of my finances by making a budget. As I mentioned before, the first thing to do is to really start with something. Take out a physical piece of paper, write down what all your expenses are, what you're going to be doing, and make a plan towards that. And then the second badge I got was I customized my budget to meet my specific needs. And the last one here, I have a balanced budget and I am living within my means. So that's it for this one. And again, this is something you can download on Excel. You can customize it. I want to go to this next link here because it talked about a financial goal calculator. So let's start. Here actually is 2 questions. The first one is, are you going to be using this to get out of debt? There's one way to work on this goal calculator with that, or set your savings goals. Let's say I want to set a savings goal. Savings name, let's say save for a medical expense you have coming up. The type of goal, it's going to be based on other target amount. Let's say it's $10,000 that I need for this medical expense. And keep in mind, there is also the medical expense tax credit you might be able to use as well, which is something to speak to your accountant or your financial planner about. Current balance, let's say I only got 2,000 in there right now, so I got some more savings to do. Interest rate, let's say, so actually this is important to know here. What they see here is if you're looking to invest this money, or let's just say if you're borrowing this money, if it's going to be from a line of credit, what the cost is to borrow. But in this case, it's saying this is the annual interest rate. So you may find this information on your savings account info. Let's say this is because it's saving for a goal, I'm investing it, and let's just say I'm going to make about 4%. Okay, and let's say I'm going to be contributing monthly, and I'm starting, this contribution is going to start today. Actually, today is the 12th, so start today, and plan for regular contributions. Let's say yes for that. So let's say I'm planning to do $200 a month, and plan for a number of contributions. So you would choose this option if you would like to save for your goal within a specific number of payments. So you want to enter the amount of payments, for example, 60 payments, and that would be obviously 5 years. So you can press save, and this tool will calculate how much you'll need. So let's say we're going to do it for 60 payments, 60 months. And the plan for the target date, and let's just say 5 years from now. So let's say in 2028, and let's say April, oh sorry, today is the 11th. I said it was the 12th earlier, apologize, but let's say the 11th, and let's say save. And then right here is going to give us some information on what our goal is going to look like. I'm going to export this to PDF actually. I want to show you what this looks like as well. So let me open this up. And here you can kind of see an easier breakdown. So what is the goal? The goal here is I'm saving for a medical expense. The target amount I know is about $10,000. The current amount I have saved is $2,000. You are going to invest that, let's just say you do, for the next 5 years. And let's say it's something that's a low risk investment. Let's just say you're going to earn 4% over the next, or low to medium risk. So let's say you're going to earn about 4% over the next 5 years. Let's say you're going to be contributing to this monthly. You're going to start tomorrow. The total interest earned over this calculation is going to be about just over $700. And the contribution amount you're putting in is 200. And the contributions, we said 37, and contribution end date is 2026. So they're actually telling me, I had originally put in, and I said this was going to take 5 years. But the plan here in the software is saying I'll actually get to my goal sooner. I'll actually be done this goal in April of 2026 based on the contributions I'm doing, the expected interest rate I'm earning, right? And what I already have saved. So I actually don't need to be doing this for 60 months, only 37, which is pretty interesting. So, you want to make sure what you're saving for, you have those dates and those goals in mind. And that's great news that you can be saving for this goal sooner. Now, on the flip side, let's say you needed to save more for it. Well, it would show you an opposite scenario saying you're going to have a shortfall. Unfortunately, you won't be able to get that $10,000 goal in 5 years. Instead, you'll either have to start saving more, or if you're comfortable with it, take on higher risk in investment and potentially make more through interest, which again, potentially. So there are some still risks tied to that. This is definitely a good point to see here on how you can start saving, how you can start budgeting, get all this information on these spreadsheets, save it on your computer, update it, right? And even speak to someone for assistance. If you have a trusted family member or friend who has maybe done this or gone through this and has some experience, it's never a bad thing to reach out for help and to get an idea, and definitely stay motivated. That's the biggest part. Some of this isn't fun for everyone, so to keep yourself motivated is very important. The same thing with, you're trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Sometimes you can be motivated to go to the gym and to exercise and to be healthy. It's the same thing for being healthy financially. So some of this can be a little bit of a drag on you mentally and physically, but it's very important, again, to instill this into your habits and into your financial responsibility and behavior early on as much as you can. So then that way it just becomes a routine. So I believe that will conclude everything for today. Definitely open for answering any questions if anyone wants to throw any questions at me, or if there's anything else they want to see.
Absolutely. There's actually a question in the question tab right now, and if any of you have any more questions, don't hesitate to put them in the questions function. Is it financial advisor's responsibility to check investment summaries when they are sent from the company to see how the investment is doing, such as on a mutual funds or something similar?
So is it the financial advisor's responsibility to check statements that are coming in for the client?
Yeah.
Is that what the question is? Do you mind just repeating that?
Yeah, that is the question, yes.
Okay. Well, it comes down to a couple things. If you have an engagement with your financial advisor, and if the engagement, clearly indicates that, there's servicing that's required for your accounts, it is a responsibility for the advisor to at least be reaching out to you once a year to be talking about your investments. Now, it also lies on the consumer as well to be proactive with your investments, and to also make sure you're answering the financial advisor's call, and you're also engaging reciprocally in wanting to meet with them. But yeah, the advisor does have a responsibility to be reaching out to clients and to be talking about their investments and again, what the plan is. An advisor should not be ignoring you. If you feel like maybe during one quarter they didn't reach out, I wouldn't say it's they're doing something wrong, but if you haven't heard from them in at least a year, that could now fall down on the advisor on not keeping up to date with the client's financial plan. But definitely ongoing management and setting up review meetings for the client to go over investments is part of their job and their role. And as the regulation states, an advisor, must be in contact with clients that they're servicing. But there is a fine line between, okay, what is the amount of time that the advisor has to reach out by? That's something I would definitely talk to your advisor about and get it in writing as well to see what their service model is and what's expected from them. And let's say if your advisor says, well, based on the assets you have with me, I can only really do one review meeting a year. If that's not something that you feel fits well with you, then maybe look for someone who is a little bit more hands-on, and that's going to give you more assistance, especially if it comes down to monitoring investments. The second thing I want to say too is if you do have a long-term plan in place, like let's say you've invested in your RSPs and you got over 10 years to go for retirement, and you've done the planning with your advisor, and it shows that you're meant to leave this money alone for at least the next 10 years, then, and if they've gone through to show you how your investments are going to be going up and down based on the risk level, then at least they've laid out there as well that there's not a need for them to be reaching out every quarter or so to be going over what the rate of returns are, because you are looking long term into this. And maybe they've disclosed already that you are going to see some times where markets are down and your investment statements will come back. It's going to look ugly, but again, relating to the long term plan, you've accepted this level of risk, you've accepted the volatility. We know that this is for the long term, right? It also is within favor to not be changing investments around or making any moves just because maybe it's a bad month in the markets. It's all going to relate towards a long-term plan that you have set with your advisor, and again, what the expectations are for them to be servicing you going forward.
Now, probably we have time for one more question. A couple of questions have actually come in about if there's financial advisors in certain cities, for instance, Toronto, where to get in touch with financial advisors for that. And as a follow-up question, is there a benefit to having a more localized financial planner, or does it really matter necessarily where they are? Would the advice kind of be the same so long as they're in the province or in the country?
Yeah, so in terms of local advisors, it's interesting because, since the pandemic started and since everyone's been doing meetings virtually, there's been quite an expansion of advisors working with clients in other cities or regions, simply because we've all gone accustomed to this whole, let's meet virtually, let's meet digitally. In my opinion, it's, you want to be with an advisor, first of all, who's licensed and understands the rules and everything in your jurisdiction. Let's say you're in BC and you've come across this advisor who you feel is going to work well for you, and they're in Ontario. You've seen it happen where, yeah, some advisors in different provinces are servicing people that can be across the country, but it's to really make sure, okay, one, what do they specialize in? Let's say you are a physician in BC, and this financial planner specializes with physicians, which there's a lot of the same rules and regulations for financial planning with a professional or using a professional corporation, but it's to know that are they also licensed in that area, and do they have the knowledge on what servicing is provided for that person. If you prefer to meet with someone in person too, that could be a little bit more interactive. So I'd say working with someone locally first is a good start to find someone locally. But again, if you got a referral to work with this advisor who's done great work for people in your situation and they're from a different province, it doesn't hurt to try to engage with them and to see what kind of services they can provide. Maybe their specialized help really does go a long way, so it's worth it. But again, to look at, do they have any other clients in the province that you're in? Are they familiar with the tax rules there and the tax brackets and anything else legally as well? Most provinces are the same when it comes down to, you're writing wills, but there could be some differences in certain provinces. If you write a will in one province and have property in another, there could be, some messiness there. So again, there are little factors that can differentiate between working with an advisor in one province and another, but it definitely comes down to what you're comfortable with and the experience that this advisor has working with people in the jurisdiction that you're in.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Hopefully that we will be able to get you back for some more webinars about financial planning. And if you want to keep up to date with our Cancer Survivor to Financial Survivor series, sign up for our newsletter, and you can find them on demand at survivornet.ca. For those who have asked, yes, a copy of both the presentation and the slides will be given to you by the email that you registered with. And don't forget that all our webinars are posted on YouTube and our Facebook page. So thank you very much, Andrew, once again for your help, and thank you everyone for attending the presentation. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Trevor.